Welcome everyone to, I think, TBDC and IITK SVA presents Fireside Chat with Soham. We wanted to start this IIT Kanpur Bakaits series to kind of showcase the alums who have done something extra over the ordinary to become the extraordinary. And that's why we're calling them the Bakaits. Today, IIT Kanpur Silicon Valley chapter welcomes you to this event. Our sponsor today is Toronto Business Development Center. And actually, their CEO, Neha, was supposed to join us today, but because of some medical reasons, she couldn't. So she's asked me to say a few words about TBDC. So Toronto Business Development Center is actually one of the Toronto's premier startup incubator and accelerator with a rich history dating about 3 decades. Since its inception, TBDC has worked with thousands of entrepreneurs by helping them build and grow their ideas. They've helped international entrepreneurs aggressively scale up and choose Canada to grow their businesses. And till date, TBDC has helped domestic and international businesses establish in Toronto and Ontario by offering them to diverse mentor network, access to capital, strategically designed programs. And they have been designated organization by the Canadian government. The TBDC's Startup Visa, which is called SUV program, has emerged as the preferred destination for promising international startups from across the globe. This 6-month-long program has been specifically designed to help incoming companies from over 20 sectors like cybersecurity, fintech, edtech, health tech, mobility to establish themselves in the North American market. And aside from SUV program, TBDC also has several other programs designed to meet the various needs of startups. The International Soft Landing program is designed for overseas businesses looking to explore the North America and receive pre-acceleration services like mentoring, access to capital, recruitment, help, etc. And TBDC, the team takes pride in helping launch successful businesses and groom future industry leaders. And through its strong mentor investor network, along with our various key strategic partnerships, TBDC aims to play a significant role in Ontario's economic growth through innovation and job creation. So you can go to tbdc.com for further details. And if you want, we can also connect you to their team if you're interested in just a one-on-one chat with them. So with that, let's start our event. And today we have a very special guest with us. He's one of our batchmates and a very good friend for a long time, Soham. So I would let actually Jitesh do a more formal introduction. So over to you, Jitesh.
Thank you, Shlok. So hello, namaste everybody. Thanks for joining us today. And hello to Soham. Soham, thank you. Thanks a lot for making this happen.
Thanks, JJ. Thanks, Shlok.
Sure. So let me just start with introducing Soham. I do know Soham, like Shlok said, we have been batchmates. I know him from 1998 now. And when you meet him, there are two things you will notice first, right? As soon as you meet him, first thing you will notice is he's super sharp, right? I mean, so he will be one of the smartest guy you will see, right? And you will realize it as soon as you meet him. The other thing that you notice is very down to earth, very, very modest person, right? So with that, let me do a more formal introduction. Before I do the formal introduction, I do have a warning for all the people in the audience today who don't know Soham. After I do the introduction, the introduction might hurt your ego, right? If you think you have achieved a lot in your career, you might have to think again. So Soham is a IIT Kanpur graduate from Computer Science 2002 batch. Before joining IIT Kanpur, he won a silver medal in an International Mathematics Olympiad. In IITJ, he got rank 3, Khawateen. He joined Google after IIT Kanpur, he went to UIUC for doing a master's in computer science. After UIUC, he joined Google. He has had few gigs with startups now. He has sold one startup, Tactile, to Facebook. Currently, he's the co-founder of another startup, Rubrik, which everybody knows that it's a multi-billion-dollar startup. So welcome, Soham, again. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks, JJ. Thanks, Shlok. Really exciting to be here. I see a lot of familiar names on the chat window here. So again, hello to everybody. Good to be here. Good to be talking to you all.
Thank you. So my first question, Soham, and I think all the people here have that question. तुम आटा कौन सी चक्की को खाते हो?
IIT Kanpur, nahi?
All right, cool. So jokes aside, Soham, tell us something about your stay at IIT Kanpur, right? You know, what things you miss, what did you enjoy there? Tell me something about that.
I mean, it has to start with being chased by monkeys, don't you think? No, I mean, IIT Kanpur, absolutely best years, without doubt, of my life. It's just amazing. The the kind of people that you meet there, the energy of that place. If there is one thing that I really miss about the place, is really at the end of the day, all the batchmates, wingmates, classmates, right? There's all the friendships that you build with the folks there, right? The first thing that happens when you get there is suddenly you're like, wow, there are so many really smart people. So many of them are smarter than you. It's a very humbling experience. Go to classes with them, spend your practically everything but your sleep time around these people. You form these relationships that some of them are just friendships that last for a lifetime. Others, they help you immensely in your professional life at a later point as well. I mean, that is obviously the thing that I would personally say miss the most, all the fun. If I kind of look back, incidents that I remember, a lot of it is about kind of the fun that I had with my friends. I remember these events. Antaragni used to be the inter-college, inter-hall competition back then. I don't know if it's still there or what it is called right now, but I'm just like blown away with the kind of fun and kind of stuff that we did there. I remember this one time, I think it was in the second year, where we ended up building a bridge out of all the cots that people had in the hostel. So some senior came, asked us to kind of empty the cots, and we took out the cots from every room in the hostel, and then we built a bridge out of it. And the whole idea was that about 10 people would walk across it. I just look back and I'm like, what were we thinking? This just sounds ridiculous. But anyway, those are like some of the memories, right? All the stuff that we did together.
Right. So I do remember that bridge building, right? So I think we won that.
Yes.
We won that competition, right? It was during Galaxy, right?
Galaxy. Sorry, I forgot the name of the event. Yeah.
I think it ended when we were leaving, and then I think it has recently restarted. That's what I have heard.
Indeed.
All right, cool. So thanks for sharing that. So after graduating from IIT Kanpur, you went to UIUC for masters in computer science. After that, you joined Google. Mm-hmm. That was in 2004, I think. And so Google was still a pretty young company then. How was that like? How was the work like?
Yeah. So I, oddly enough, I joined Google the week of the IPO, which was quite interesting. Google is also a company which at some point had an IPO. Don't think of that anymore. Right. So I mean, it was amazing. Like I kind of consider Google like my second college of engineering in some ways, right? You as a person straight out of college, you go there. First of all, you meet a lot of great people. Suddenly the code that you used to write for your assignment starts feeling very inadequate when you get into a company. So I mean, so there was an amazing amount of learning there. Just the kind of tools and technologies that you get familiarity with. Truly amazing. Free food, that was a really big deal back then. Food was tough to get by. So again, like frankly, I learned a lot, right? Amazing people, amazing technologies. Who got a chance to work with, work on some pretty cool projects. It was great. It was a, I think, I mean, Google obviously has changed quite a bit. Back in the day, it was still, I would not say it was massive. I think I was employee 4,000, but right now it's probably going to be, 40,000 or so, right? So still small, big scheme of things. And a lot of very foundational technologies were being built, the full scope of where Google could go as a business, how big the web itself was going to be, There was no such thing as Android. There was no such thing as Chrome. So there was just a pretty early in many ways. So I did get a chance to work on some pretty interesting problems that still very foundational. So again, I would say, I rate my stint at Google very positively. I think I stayed a little too long, but on the whole, it was a great experience.
Very cool. So Soham, you are working at Google, right? You have, like you said, you are working on some very interesting projects. You are working with, one of the sharpest minds in the world, right? Your pay is awesome, right? So why think of a change? I mean, for some of us, Google is still a dream company. So why did you think of a change?
Yeah, I mean, I think, see, at the end of the day, right? I mean, why do you work in any place, or what is it that at the end of the day motivates all of us? I think it's a lot of things are very similar for most people, right? You want to be learning and you want to have a lot of impact, right? So, I mean, when I joined Google, the level of learning I was having was just crazy, right? And, I mean, I would not trade that off with anything. But that learning slowly does plateau, right? At some point, you kind of realize that, it is still within a larger construct that your learning is confined to. So it was kind of in some ways restricted, and I kind of realized that my learning was plateauing at some point. And the second thing is impact, right? You could argue that anything that you do in Google is getting amplified many, many times because it is going to a lot of people. So that's certainly there is impact, no question about it. But at the same time, I was having a tough time finding a line of sight between what I was doing and how it was in fact moving the company. So that was kind of my second motivation, that I couldn't really feel that impact. And thirdly, Silicon Valley, you breathe the air, there are startups everywhere. So, it just felt like I had a terrible desire that A, I had to leave, and B, I had to leave and do a startup. So, all of those things kind of coming together. And again, there's the fourth one, which is I met this, my co-founder for my first startup. And, timing wise, there was some, you can just call it luck, serendipity. We were both kind of thinking about doing something different at about the same time. So all of those things kind of came together, and that's how I left Google.
Okay, cool. So I have heard rumors, about you. So this, I don't actually, it's true, but I have heard from my friends, like, so you are leaving Google, but they won't let you go, right?
Oh,
is there a story on that?
No, that is, I think, a little exaggerated. So I had basically 2 half-lives at Google. So I changed projects big way. I think in my first half-life, at the end of my first half-life, I was about to leave, and I was about to kind of join a company as their first employee. That is certainly a time when Google was able to convince me that was a bad idea. In retrospect, it did let me earn my green card. So, I'm thankful for extending my stay at Google. Second time around, I was much more convincing. I basically told them that, guys, look, I've been working on this thing for 6 months now. So nothing doing, bye-bye. So yeah, anyway, they tried a little bit, not a whole lot.
So when you are going for a change, right? When you're opening a startup, is there like a aha moment you have where, right, okay, I have had this idea for 6 months. Tomorrow is the day I will leave Google and, start working full time. Is there that moment, or how did it work out?
So I think, this
how
is
do you know
true
you're
about,
ready, right?
Huh?
How do you know you're ready for that?
Yeah. So when I look back at my career and or like big life decisions, I have a tough time kind of like rationalizing everything that I have done. So again, I'll try to make it sound as scientific as I can make it sound. Essentially, myself and my co-founder, we brainstormed. We brainstormed and brainstormed and brainstormed. And we converged on this thing that we thought was a game-changing idea. And then we started kind of working on it. And I think in this particular case, look, I wanted to leave. That was a given. So it was really about figuring out what is it that I wanted to do. And we convinced ourselves that this was worth doing. We spoke to a bunch of customers, got some validation. And we are just generally ready to jump. I really don't think there was like this one trigger moment. It was in some ways building up. and it just kind of came together at one point and I left. That's kind of how at least the first Tactile happened.
Cool. So can you tell us more about the idea of Tactile? What was?
Sure. So Tactile was about connecting local businesses to their customers. So again, the whole idea was, you go to a local business, the business typically, they may know you by face, but they don't really have a way of reaching out to you. They don't know how often you come. It's very much an offline system. And our idea was that, okay, can we bridge this gap between offline and online? Could we kind of use your phone and some device at the customer's end, at the merchant's end, to kind of connect the customer and the business? So this was the idea. We got really, really excited by it. We spent, I don't know. First of all, we did a pivot. Before that, we had like a consumer idea, but then we pivoted into this idea. But I think the main thing for me, one message for me is just like anything else, you work and you become a better engineer. Similarly, entrepreneurship is also something that you can get better at. So for me, Tactile was really, it was an amazing, from a learning perspective, nothing has happened that's better than Tactile, right? One thing that it taught me was that, it's not about it's not about solving an interesting problem, right? Becoming an entrepreneur, building a business is not about just solving an interesting problem. Sure, you're solving an interesting problem, but that's not enough, right? At the end of the day, you have to build something that somebody is willing to give you money for. And that was really hard. And the second thing is you need to have the ability to scale the business, right? So it should, we were selling to small businesses, right? When you're selling to small businesses, each business is giving you a small amount of money. So how do you build a mechanism to scale it? So again, things around go-to-market fit, genuinely getting product market fit. These are things that you simply never think about when you're at Google, right? In Google, somebody tells you build a project. If you do it, customers will come, right? In fact, you might even get advertisement for your product on google.com, literally the most visited place on earth.
Right.
That doesn't happen in a startup. So again, Tactile for me really was eye-opening, just how difficult it is to acquire customers, how important it is to figure out how to scalably acquire customers. Learned a tremendous amount through the Tactile experience.
Cool. So are there any specific reason you decided to sell Tactile?
I think, the main thing was, we had, I would say, about a few hundred businesses which were using the Tactile product. The main thing that we were struggling with was to see how we could scale this, right? And and that again is, that was the biggest learning, that it's not just about build something as a prototype and show it to somebody and some people get excited by it. At the end of the day, to make it successful, you absolutely need to figure out how is it that you're going to be scalably selling it, and we could not really crack that code. So it was like a middling growth kind of a company, and that's really why we. And of course, we were also running out of money. So those were the two reasons why we realized that the better option for us would be to sell it. And Facebook at that point, so we sold it to Facebook. This is like end of 2011. So Facebook had not yet cracked kind of its money-making story. So right now it just shows ads in the feed, and that's how it makes money. And that's, in retrospect, it sounds obvious that is what it should be doing. But back in 2011, that was not what it was doing. And in fact, it was trying out a whole bunch of ideas around, including how to make, potentially more revenues from local businesses. And that's kind of how we got connected to Facebook. And, the acquisition happened. It was, in some ways, for us, it was really hard to scale. It ended up being overall a good outcome for us.
Cool. So then the trigger for selling it, basically, running out of money, and then is that what?
Yes. Indeed, it's not as glamorous as you think. I can give it a more glamorous spin, but it's in reality, this is what happened.
Sure. All right. So let's talk about Rubrik. So you joined Facebook after selling selling Tactile to Facebook, right? So then you were at Facebook for about four years.
No, year and a half, a year and a quarter.
I see. So tell us about Rubrik. How did the idea come to be?
Yeah. So I mean, I think Rubrik was so again, like the founding team. A little bit of background on the founding team. So I mean, there is me, and there is our CEO. He used to be on Nutanix's board. So a lot of the observations around the market opportunity came via his experiences with Nutanix, which was really around, what I believed is a modern data center was entirely based on my observations at Google.
Mm-hmm.
That is literally not how any enterprise, which is not Google, Amazon, Facebook, or Microsoft, run their business. So there's just a huge gap between state-of-the-art web scale and the rest of the world. And in some ways, that was the gap, that there's an opportunity to kind of make everything software defined, specifically in the context of protecting people's business data, which we observed and which we really went after. And again, once we had that germ of an idea, we, it was done, unlike in the case of Tactile, there's just a lot of validation that we did, including we did things like going into these trade shows, pretending to be a customer of some of our rival products and having them totally pitch us what the rival product does. We totally figured out that, okay, we are going to crush them. We are going to beat them really badly. So again, we did like all sorts of, guerrilla tactics to really understand what the real market need was. And only then did we end up jumping. Again, timing played a big role. I was kind of sick and tired of Facebook. Again, the other co-founders were also kind of lining up at about the same time. So it kind of, again, just like Tactile, a lot of like serendipity happened around getting things together at the same time.
So you have 4 co-founders in Rubrik, right? How do you go about finding like partners or co-founders, right, for a startup?
I mean, typically, I mean, in some ways it happens through your network, right? It's either somebody you have worked with or somebody you have, it's like, friend of a friend kind of relationship. In the case of Bipul, who is the CEO, my connection to him was I tried raising money from him unsuccessfully in Tactile. So, Tactile had a very interesting role to play in Rubrik's coming together in the form of making this connection. The other co-founder, is this guy from Google whom I had worked with back in 2004. So again, like a lot of the, a lot of things coming together does happen via all the connections that you build over a course of time. And that's kind of why, again, like broadening your net and just having more connections and conversations is really important, because you never know which of these is kind of going to come together to kind of give you your next opportunity.
Right. So Rubrik reached the unicorn status, like $1 billion status, very quickly, right? I think within 1 or 2 years of when you launched it, right? So were there any specific reasons or what?
I mean, I think, first of all, again, you need the product market fit. If you don't have it, then there is no way you're going to, there is just, most startups kind of spend 3 years just figuring out their product market fit. I think we got it right off the bat. And a lot of it is kind of just comes down to the homework that we did before starting. Just again, like all the ninja guerrilla tactics I was talking about, just to kind of get validation on what is it that we're trying to build. That was important. Number 2, if there is a market trend that you can catch on to, absolutely helps, right? In our case, it was, for businesses, cloud was very important, very aspirational. They had no idea how to leverage the cloud. We had a solution that kind of gave them a path. So that was another thing. And then lastly, just there is no alternative to hard work and strong execution, right? I mean, there is no matter how brilliant an idea you come up with, if you can't back it up with strong execution, it won't work. So again, like we spent a ridiculous amount of energy creating the right founding team that could truly attack the space. So again, that obviously paid off. So again, and again, at the end of the day, some element of luck, which is absolutely hard to quantify.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about building a great team, right? How do you go about building a great team? Like when you are hiring a person, especially the initial part, right? When you are just starting the startup,
yeah.
How do you figure out that this person will be the right fit?
Yeah. So so we were, again, it depends, obviously, what I mean, what I'm saying is true for Rubrik. It may not hold true in other scenarios. For us, we leaned in on our networks quite heavily to build out. I would say the first 5 engineers, all of them had, one of them I had worked with at Facebook. One of the other co-founders had worked with at Google. Other guy had worked with at Rocket Fuel. So again, it was very much our own network and referrals that we got. Because again, the thing is, look, you have an idea, you have a lot of confidence in it. And the question is, why should anybody else have a confidence in it? So in some ways, trying to reach out in your network is certainly a pretty big part of it in seeding anything at all. The other thing is, again, you have to work really hard because, the Bay Area is essentially full of amazing companies, amazing opportunities, amazing startups. So again, how do you convince somebody to join you? And this takes a lot of work. So we've done all sorts of things, including giving a baby shower for one guy, convincing the wife of at least 2 of the people's wives needed to be convinced. In one case, there was this engineer who was from Jaipur. So his dad's biggest concern was, my son will not get a wife if he joins this random company. I want him to join Google. And then, I think I spent like an hour talking to his dad about, this is not such a bad idea after all. So, you have to go to great lengths to kind of really get folks on board. There is no shortcut here.
I see. Cool. Okay, I have one more question before I have some rapid fire, which I think we have a little bit of time. So the last question I have is on work-life balance, right? So is there a thing like work-life balance when you are a startup co-founder? Also, once you have a company, right now you are the boss, right? So nobody can tell you, you are done. How do you tell yourself that I'm done now?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you should ask this question to my wife. She might have a different answer. I think, doing a startup does take quite a bit of effort. We had these episodes where our server room caught fire, right? So, in the middle of the night, there's like smoke coming out of the room, and then you have to kind of, I live in San Francisco, so I drove to the office in Palo Alto 1 in the night, try to get the fire guy to enter the space and cut the fire. So again, you have to do all sorts of things. But I think, you have to find something that works for you and your family, right? So again, for me, it was, I may be working even on the weekends, but I'm not doing it from work. I'm doing it from home. Or, you find a way to spend time with your family. It's a formula that you need to work out for yourself and your family, what works for you. And, certainly, there are long hours. There are, the work never ends. All of those things are true. Some of the times you just need to be present to just, inspire the folks. So again, all of that is there, but you need to find a formula that works for you, right? Again, at the end of the day, if it means that your wife is extremely unhappy with you, your life is going to be miserable, and it's probably you should do something about it. So yeah, you have to work it out for yourself.
All right, cool. Thanks, Soham. So I think we have a little bit of time. So I do have some rapid fire questions. These are just fun questions, right? So you take them you don't have to really answer them. But what will you be doing if you had not started Rubrik? You were not in the startup business at all. What will you be doing?
Man, I want to be in a jam session where Siddharth Chattopadhyay is playing something fun.
Yeah, everybody wants to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have that actually at IIT in the Silicon Valley chapter. We do have him, playing something.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, there you go.
we can solve that problem for you. All right. So tell me one thing you like to do most outside work.
I think playing tennis is one of them. I'm always looking for a tennis partner. If anyone of you live in the Bay Area and want to join me, I'm ready.
All right. So me and Shlok, we are tennis partners. So maybe.
Okay, perfect.
What work do you do at home, if any?
Dude, I have like a packed morning 7:30 to 8:30. I am on kid duty, which includes lunch making, breakfast making, getting the kids ready for school, poop clearing, and a few other things, right? So that's work. That's one. And of course, now I'm the chauffeur. That's going to change right after COVID ends. But right now, that certainly is one important work I do. And my wife admits that, I'm really the taxi driver of the house.
What is one thing about you that your wife doesn't like?
If there is a deadline,
Tell me only one thing.
It has to do with time. I have a very stretchable definition of time. She has a much more precise definition of time. So that ends up being the biggest source of conflicts for us.
All right. When did you watch a movie in theater last? I mean, of course, in pandemic, nobody has watched it, but before pandemic.
Oh, I mean, yeah, 2 years, I guess.
Okay, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the last question. How many years to go before you hit $1 billion in worth? And the answer could be negative.
I mean, there is paper worth, yes.
Cool. You don't have to answer that. All right, Soham, thanks a lot.